Hello everyone, I'm back today with part 2 of our crochet-along for the Bitty Bunny Buddy. This is a free crochet-along that is being shared on my blog this week. You can check it out at stuckonyoucrochet.com if you'd like to follow along. So yesterday we did part 1. We made all of the parts of our bunny. So we have 2 arms, 2 ears, and the head. And today we're going to be making the body of the bunny, and then we'll be assembling the parts all together. So here is my small bunny that I made. This is the body portion that we're going to be working on today, and then we'll be attaching all of these parts. So you'll see on the body we're going to be doing a lot of bobble stitch today. If bobble stitch is not something you're familiar with, you're basically just putting a bunch of double crochet stitches together. So I like to make my bobbles pop towards me rather than away from me. There's different techniques for doing this, but I just like the look that it gives me better. And then when you're working in the round, it will end up on the outside of your work. If you prefer pushing the bobbles away from you when you make them, then you're just going to have to turn your body inside out before you attach the head and all the pieces, so that your bobbles end up on the outside. I did share on the blog post a link to a free pattern of mine that's on the blog that uses bobble stitch. So if you need help working in the round with the bobble stitch or trying to figure out how I have done it, then you can check that pattern out. But I'll also obviously be showing the technique here today too. So let's get started. If you are working with a size 4 yarn, you're going to need your 4mm hook. If you're working with a size 5, if you're working with a size 5 or a plush yarn, then you're going to need your 5mm hook. So I'm going to use my 5mm. And the first thing we're going to do is start out with that magic circle. So I shared yesterday that if the magic circle is difficult for you, then you can slip stitch and chain 2, and you can work your first few stitches into the first chain rather than do the magic circle. All right, so to begin the body, we're going to do 6 half double crochet stitches into the magic circle. So the body uses half double crochet and single crochet stitches, and we will kind of alternate back and forth with those. All right, so I've got 6 there. I'm going to pull this tight, and then we're going to continue to work in the round. So we are not going to slip stitch to join. We're just going to continue to work round 2 into the next stitch. So like I said yesterday, with the plush yarn, it's a little bit hard to see your stitches, so I like to count backwards to make sure that I'm going into the right spot. So in round 2, we're going to increase around, and so we will put 2 half double crochet stitches into each of the stitches around. And you'll notice that in the pattern, I think I noted that the increases or decreases, they're always done in whatever the stitch is for that round. So if you're working in single crochet and it says to decrease, then it's going to be a single crochet decrease. If you're working in half double crochet, then it'll be a half double crochet increase or decrease. All right, I lost count while I was talking, so let's see what I have here. All right, one more. One of the ways that I like to keep track of my rounds, especially on the body, is to just use a piece of string. You can use stitch markers if you like. This is just what works for me, but I'll just put a piece of string across the end of the round, and then I'll crochet over it and pull it out at the end. But especially on the body, that helps me to keep track of where I'm at. And if I've made any mistake, then I can go back to that specific round and figure out where it is. So then in round 3, we're going to do some increased stitches again. So we'll put 2 half double crochet stitches into the first stitch. That will be our increase. And then we'll put just one half double crochet stitch into the next stitch. And we're going to repeat that all the way around. So you'll repeat that 6 times. And that's going to make your stitch count go from 12 to 18. So this is just helping our circle get a little bit bigger, so that then we can start to work up to make the body. If you hear kids in the background, it's my kids. My husband is working this weekend, so I am trying to get some stuff done while they are also playing and having a good Saturday morning. All right, so that is round 3. And you should end that round with 18. Got a lot of strings going together here. So now with this string, I'm going to pull it forward so that we'll mark the next end of the next round. And this will all just pull out when you're done. So don't worry about, you don't want to go through the string. Don't pull it up into one of your stitches, but if you keep it pretty loose, it'll pull right out at the very end of the project. So now in round 4, we're going to do our first round that has bobble stitches. So we're going to do 2 single crochet stitches, and then we'll do a bobble, and we're going to repeat that all the way around. So there's no increases or decreases in this round. We're just going to be putting 1 stitch into each stitch, but every third will be a bobble. So I've got 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet, and then a bobble. So with this bobble, I'm going to yarn over, put my hook into the stitch, draw up a loop, then I'm going to yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops on the hook. Then I'm going to do that same thing 3 more times. So there I'll end with 5 loops on my hook. So that means that I have the start of 4 double crochet stitches there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to yarn over, and then I'm going to pull through all 5 of those loops. And I'll show you what I'm doing with my finger. So as I yarn over and pull through, I'm going to push the back of these stitches, and that's going to push it forward towards me. So some people will use their thumb and push it away, but in order to get the bobble to the outside of the body, I'm going to use my forefinger, and I'm going to push those stitches forward and pull through. And then you can see it gives that bobble stitch there. You do not need to chain after your bobble stitch. You're just going to go ahead and work right into the next stitch. So now we'll do 2 single crochet stitches, and then a bobble, and then 2, and a bobble, the bobbles do get easier over time as you get the hang of it, but it might feel a little funny at first. All right, so I've got 1 more bobble to do, and at the end of this round, you should end on a bobble. so that's the end of round 4 for me. Sorry for all the strings. There's a lot. Let me cut this. I'm going to make this a little shorter. All right, so as a reminder, for round 4, we did 2 single crochet stitches and then a bobble. And we did that 6 times around, so we're ending round 4 on a bobble. So now in round 5, we're going to do some increased stitches again. And in round 5, we're going to go back to the half double crochet stitches. So single crochet stitches are used when there's a bobble, or on rounds that there's a bobble, and then half double crochet is used in between. So we're going to put 2 half double crochet stitches into that first stitch, and then we'll do a single half double and a single half double. And then we're going to repeat that 6 times around. My yarn is not pulling very nicely from the middle. It keeps getting stuck. So this is going to increase our total number of stitches from 18 to 24. All right, so that's the end of round 5 there. I'm going to pull that string forward so I can see it. And then I always like to tug a little bit after each round, just to make sure that my stitches aren't too tight, my tension is loose enough. So you can do that if you want to, but you don't have to. So then on round 6, we're going to go back to doing that bobble stitch. So just like before, we're going to start with 2 single crochet stitches. And then we're going to do the same bobble that we did in round 4. And you'll see that this kind of places the bobble in between 2 of the bobbles in the prior round. So now, since we increased from 18 to 24, we're going to have 3 single crochet stitches in between each bobble. In round 4, we only had 2, but now in round 6 and in all the other bobble rounds, we're going to have 3 in between them. If you want, you can use different colors on the bobble rounds to make kind of a rainbow effect. I did put that on the blog, which rounds you can change those colors for. But it's kind of a cute feature that you can add on if you want to. All right, we're almost to the end here. So like I was saying, since this round has 24, there's going to be 3 single crochet stitches in between each bobble. And so at the end of the round, you'll notice that the rounds start and end with a different number of single crochet stitches, and that's just because we want the bobble to be placed in between as we work up and around. but there's always still going to be 3 single crochet stitches between them. So here we started the round with 2 single crochet stitches, so we're going to need to end the round with just 1, because that'll keep that spacing of 3 single crochet stitches. So now in the next round, we're going to go back to half double crochet stitches, and we're just going to put 1 half double crochet stitch in each of the stitches around. So we'll finish this round with 24 stitches still, and they were all in half double crochet stitch. All right, so we've got 2 rounds of bobbles done. So now we will go back to another round of bobble, and we are on round number 8. So to start this round, we're just going to do 1 single crochet stitch, and then we're going to do a bobble. And again, this is all to make sure that the bobbles are just being placed in between each other as we work up, so they don't stack on top of each other. So you can see here, they're starting to fall in between. Hopefully that technique of using your forefinger to push that bobble forward is getting a little bit easier. I love the way that it makes the stitches pop. It gives a really cool texture for these little buddies. So if you find that your bobbles are not falling in between each other, if they start stacking, then go back through and count the number of stitches in between them. So sometimes I'll realize that I missed a stitch, like I put 2 together, or I only put 2 in between instead of 3 in between. So if it seems like something is off, then pause and go back through that round, or the round below if you can't find a mistake in that particular round, and see if you can figure out where the count got off. All right, so this is my last bobble for this round. And then since we started this round with 1 single crochet, we're going to finish it with 2 single crochets. All right, so we've got bobbles that are nicely falling in line, like that. So the next few rounds are all the same. It's just a matter of changing the number of single crochet stitches that you start and finish with. So I'm not gonna film those live. I'll just go ahead and finish this. And then I'm gonna work through round 14. That'll be a bobble stitch round. And then on round 15, we're going to work some decreases. So I will join back on the decreases so that I can show you how to do that. Okay, so I have worked here through round 14. So round 14, you should end with 1 single crochet stitch. And at this point, you can count the rounds of bobbles. You should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there should be 6 rounds of bobbles completed. And now we are going to do some decreases so that we can start to close off the body. So in round 15, we're going to do 2 half double crochet stitches. So do a half double crochet stitch, and then a half double crochet stitch in the next stitch. And then we're going to decrease. So we're going to put 2 stitches together. You can use an invisible decrease if you want. I don't think that it's as necessary on the body, but if that's what you're familiar with or what you like to use, then that's fine. So for me, I yarn over, insert my hook into the first stitch, draw up a loop, then go into the second stitch and draw up a loop, yarn over, and pull through all of the loops. And so that's how I do my half double decreases. But basically the point is to just get 2 stitches, pull them together to create 1 stitch, because we are going to go from 24 stitches to 18. So then once you finish this round, then we're going to go back to bobble stitches. Okay, brief pause as I had to go help my daughter. But like I was saying, for round 15, we went from 24 stitches to 18 stitches. And now we're going to do round 16 with bobbles again. But in round 16, we're only going to have 2 single crochet stitches in between the bobbles instead of 3, because we're working with a round of 18 instead of 24. So if you have purchased the pattern, on round 16 it says that you should do a bobble stitch and then 2 single crochet stitches, which is fine. I think that works well, but I've actually since realized that I think if you start the round with a single crochet stitch, then the bobbles lay a little better in between the bobbles of the previous round. So it's kind of up to you. I'll have to go back and decide if I want to change that in the pattern. But you can either start this round with a bobble and do 2 single crochet stitches if you think that that lines up well in between your prior round of bobbles, or if you feel like your bobbles are stacking on top of each other when you do that, then you can start with 1 single crochet stitch and then a bobble, and then do your 2 single crochet stitches. And this is how I've written it on the blog. I wrote this pattern, I think it's been maybe 3 years now. So, you know, you make it enough times and kind of change your mind on how things maybe should be done. So again, I started with 1 single crochet stitch and then did a bobble. Now I've done my 2 single crochet stitches and I'm going to do a bobble, and then I'm going to continue that all the way around. All right, so coming around to the end here. If you started this round with a bobble, as it's written in the PDF, then you're going to end this round with 2 single crochet stitches. if you started with a single crochet stitch, then you're going to end this round with 1 single crochet stitch. All right, so that completes all of our bobbles for the body. So it should look like this. And now we're gonna do a couple rounds, and then we're gonna add the arms in. So the arms are crocheted into the body rather than having to sew them. So you'll need to have those handy. But first, in round 17, we're gonna do 18 half double crochet stitches around. All right, and then in round 18, we're going to do some decrease stitches so that we get down to a round of 12. So you're going to do 1 half double crochet stitch and then a decrease. And this is a half double crochet decrease. And then continue that around so that you get down to 12 stitches. If you don't like the extra space above the bobbles, you could also do these 2 rounds in single crochet stitch if you wanted. I like that it gives it a little bit of a neck, since the half double crochet stitches are a little bit taller, but it's up to you. All right, so let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so I've got my 12 there. So this is what I mean. It gives it a little bit of space up above the bobbles. If you don't like how thick that space is, then you can make these rounds in single crochet stitch. But I like that it gives it a little bit more space above the bobbles before you add the arms in. But it's up to you, personal preference. So now we're going to add the arms in. So you're going to want to have those handy, and you're going to need to have them closed across the top. So we use 3 stitches to close each of the arms across the top. So to start round 19, we're going to do 3 single crochet stitches. But then on the next stitch, we're going to grab one of our arms and hold it next to the body. And then when we work our next single crochet, we're going to work through both the stitch of the arm and the stitch of the body. So we're going to go through both of those stitches and do a single crochet stitch. And we'll do that 3 times. You want to make sure that you are actually going through 3 separate stitches on the body. It's, especially with the plush yarn, it's a little bit hard to see. So just make sure that you're actually going through the stitches on the body. Then we're going to do 2 single crochet stitches. And again, here I've written in the pattern that you do 2 single crochet stitches. If you want your arms to be a little bit further apart, then you can do 3 single crochet stitches here. So if you like for them to be a little bit wider, and on the plush, I actually think it works for them to be a little bit wider. Here's on the size 4 yarn, this is just 2 stitches apart, and it works nicely. But on the plush, I think having a little bit more space works better. So you can decide if you want to do 2 single crochet stitches or 3 single crochet stitches in between those arms. So I'm going to do 3 since I'm working with this plush. So then you're going to grab your second arm, and then just like with the first arm, you're going to work through the stitch of the arm and the stitch of the body. If you left a tail on your arm, I like to tie those tails together when I'm finished, and then I just leave them on the inside of the body. So I'll show you that in a second. All right, so if you only put 2 single crochet stitches in the front, then you are going to need to do 1 more single crochet to finish your round. If you put 3, then that last stitch of your arm is going to end the round for you. So this is what I mean. I like to kind of pull on those ends to pull the arms in tight, and then tie them off. Not that they're going to go anywhere because the arms are crocheted in, but just a little extra security. And then I just push those tails right inside. All right, so now we have our body with our arms attached, and we've got 1 more round to go on the body. So for round 20, we're going to decrease again, but in this round we are doing a single crochet decrease. So you'll see the stitches in between the decrease are single crochet. So our decrease stitch is going to be a single crochet decrease. So we'll decrease and then do 1 single crochet and another single crochet, and we're going to do that 3 times around. And then once you get to the back, you can slip stitch. I like to slip stitch into the next stitch. And then you're going to want to leave a tail because this is what we're going to use to sew the body to the head. So leave a tail and tie that off. All right. And then you've got your body done. So now we have all of our parts done. So we just need to work on assembly next. So a quick note about assembly. We did not add any features to the head. You can add them first if you want to. I sometimes I'll add them to the head first, and sometimes I add the head to the body first. If you wait to add the features, then you don't have to worry so much about your head being centered on the body, because you can center the features after you've already attached it. But if you're using something like safety eyes, you're going to have to add the features first. So this is again one of those personal preference scenarios. So to attach the head to the body, I use straight pins, and I highly recommend using some kind of pin so that you can hold the head in place as you stitch around it. So the top of the body has 9 stitches, and then the bottom of the head, we closed that last round with 6 stitches, and then there were 12 stitches in the second to last round. So you're going to aim to attach the body in a circular fashion right around that area between those second to last and last rounds of the head. So what I do to get it placed is I start with my pins at the front. So get your head all set, and then I kind of place it on just like that, and then I just start using pins to pull the body onto the spot on the head that I want it to sew it to. So you're not sewing it flat against the head. I did have somebody ask me that. So you're not just pinching it and sewing it flat against the head. You're kind of keeping a circular opening on the body. So hopefully that makes sense. You can see that I'm pulling the back of the body and pinning it up on the head. it is kind of hard to see. And I do have a tutorial that was included with the original pattern, and that works with attaching the head on size 4 yarn, so you can try that one out too if you want to, or if this one is too hard to see. All right, so then once you have those pins, you can kind of look at your head and see, okay, does it look centered? Do I like where those pins are at? Is there anything I need to move around? Do I need to pull it out at all? You know, pull out the sides of the body. But once you like the placement of the head, then you can attach your or thread your tail through an embroidery needle. And now you're just going to work around the head and attach the head to the body. So I like to go into the head. I start at the back, and I like to go into the head and then through the stitch on the body and pull that tight. And I usually just leave my pins unless they start to get in the way. I'll usually just leave them where they're at and pull them out at the very end. With the size 4 yarn, you do want to make sure that you don't poke yourself. The heads are pretty tiny, so now I'm just going to keep working around to the front. And then usually when I get to the front, I'll kind of pause and just make sure that that I still like how everything looks. But it's kind of a good stopping point, because if you need to pull it out, then it's easier to pull it out when you're only halfway around. So then I'll keep going around the second half. I think it gets a little harder as you come around to the back, or to finish it, because the head is not as floppy at that point anymore. So you got to try to get underneath those stitches. All right, so then once you get around to the back, if you want, you can go around a second time. I like to do that, especially with plush, just to make sure that nothing breaks. In my experience, well, like I said, this is the first time that I've used this baby bear, and I really like it. I usually have used Parfait Chunky, and I like Parfait Chunky, but I have had it break on me sometimes. And especially if you're using that and trying to use the tail to attach the head, you want to make sure that you don't pull too tight, because I've had the tail break on me before, and then you're really kind of in trouble. So I'm just going to go around that second time, and then once you get to the back, you can tie around a stitch. And then I'm going to put that tail up into the head, and I'll weave my end. And you can go back and forth a few times if you want to. The plush yarn is a little more wiggly. It's smoother, so sometimes the tails will come out. So I like to put those through a few times. So then cut that end off, and now you have your head with your body and the arms attached. So the bottoms are not usually stuffed. Sometimes people will add a little bit of stuffing into them, but when I was designing these, kind of the point was that they would be sort of like a blanket. If you think of a taggy blanket, how you can rub it back and forth, that's sort of what I was going for. My daughter really loved taggy blankets at the time. So just kind of that sensory input of being able to rub the sides back and forth. And then with the bobbles, it just gives even some more added texture. So now that we have finished our whole body, we are going to add the features on our head. So I'm going to start with the ears, because then I think it's easier to center the features. So for the ears, we're going to sew these on. If you're an advanced crocheter or you have some experience, I'm sure that you could crochet these into the head. I don't always like how the placement turns out, so I just sew mine. But if you if you want to make more, when you're creating the head around rounds 2 or 3, you could probably just crochet the ears in. But I personally like being able to sew them on. So I'm going to use pins again, and about 2 or 3 rows down from the center of the head, I'm going to start to pin the ears. So I've got 3 pins that are going in a straight line across those rounds. And then I'm going to do it with the other one too. The ears will kind of stick out a little bit. As the stitches loosen over time, then they'll lay a little more flat as they get tugged on. But they do kind of, you can pull on them to try and make them go down. But they do, ouch, I got myself there. They do, they kind of stick out a little bit. All right, so once you've placed your ears with the pins, again, you can look at it and make sure that you like where they're placed. And then grab your embroidery needle and thread that tail. And then you're going to use that tail to be able to sew the ears onto the head. So again, I'm just going to go into the head and then up through the stitch of the ear. It's definitely easier to do these one at a time. So if you need to, place them to see if you like the look, but then you want to take one of them off so that it's not in the way, then you can do that. Oh. All right, and then on the ears, just like on the head, I like to go back through again, just through a few stitches. And then I like to put a stitch kind of on the back of the ear, and that can help pull those ears down too. So sometimes I'll do a stitch or two just to kind of tack the ear down. And once you finish that, then you can tie the ear off, or tie that tail off. And then just like with the tail that you use to attach the body to the head, you can weave that, you can weave this tail from the ear right into the head. Okay. All right, so then go to the other side. If you took that other ear off, then you can add it back on now. If you didn't take it off, then you can check that you still that you still like where it's at. And then you can sew that one to the head. All right, so I'm going to do a couple of stitches to tack the ear back here. And then on this ear, I started sewing it from the front, so I'm going to go back across the top just for a couple of stitches. And then you can tie that off. I'm going to tie it off under the ear here. Then weave that tail. And then you can cut the end. All right, so we're moving right along here. Now we have the body finished, we've got our arms attached, we have our head attached. So the last thing we need to do is just add our eyes and nose. If you're working with a size 4 yarn, then I like to use embroidery thread. I like how thin it is. For this plush one, I'm actually going to use some Parfait Chunky. So you can use a little bit thicker yarn for the plush if you want to. So with the eyes, there's a few different options. I've made them a lot of different ways, and you've probably noticed in my pictures that I don't always make them the same way. It just kind of depends on what I'm feeling and what's working for me when I'm making them. So I usually just do a simple V-stitch, whether I do that right side up or upside down, but that has been just the easiest way for me to make eyes on these. Personally, I don't like to use safety eyes because these are definitely meant for, at least these, they're definitely meant for babies to teeth on. So with the safety eyes, I just don't want to take any chances that, you know, that a baby might get an eye out or something like that. So the features, the description that I have in the pattern says to embroider the eyes down at row 7. So in order to do that, you're going to count down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and that just kind of gives you a spot where you can start for your eyes. So I typically will go in through the bottom of the head and then go a little bit off center. I'm actually going to go 1 row down because I'm going to make a upside down V-stitch on this one. So I'll go from the bottom of the head, and then I'm going to push my needle up through the head and pull my yarn through. And then since I'm going to make an upside down V-stitch, I'm going to go diagonally up a couple of rows. If you want to make a V-stitch, then you're just going to go down. Go up through a stitch and go down. And then I usually will leave like maybe about 3 stitches between my the inner and outer eye. So I'll go up through a stitch that's about 3 stitches over, and then I'm going to go back in through the top or the bottom if you're working upside down. If you want, you could add eyelashes over here by doing some more embroidering. I'm not going to do that today. So I'm going to go back through the top of my V, or the bottom of your V, and then I'm going to go over about 3 or 4 stitches. It's going to depend on if you're doing a upside down V or a right side up V. So from the bottom of my V's, I have about 4, really probably 5 stitches in between there. But at the top of the V, I have probably 3 stitches. So for mine, you know, this guy's really kind of too close. I'm going to go over just 3 stitches so that my eyes stay centered. And embroidery, I do not claim to be an expert at it. It's really kind of hard. There's a lot of times that I make something and then I have to pull it out and then try again. So if you don't get it or you don't like it on the first try, then just pull it out and don't give up. You can try again. It does take a little bit more time than safety eyes do to get those eyes looking perfect. Okay, so here is a good example of just needing to change this. So you can see my eye over here is a little wider than my eye over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this and I'm going to go over 1 stitch. So you don't have to pull, if it's something like that, you don't have to pull it all the way out. If you get done and the eyes are like not centered, then you might have to pull them all the way out. But if it's just the spacing, then you can kind of troubleshoot that as you go. So I'm going to go back in the top of the eye here, and then I'm going to thread my needle down back to the spot that I started at. So then once you have both eyes, you can kind of tug on them to see if you like the placement, if they look centered, if you like the style. And once you're sure that you like it, then I just tie off my ends, tie those real tight. And then I pull them right back into the head. Make sure that you don't pull too tight. You don't want to indent your head. So you want to pull that tail in, but you don't want to, cause it to make the face misshapen. All right, so then I just hide that tail inside. And this one I'm just going to hide inside too. My head with this baby bear yarn seems to have turned out a tiny bit smaller than other ones I've made. I don't know if I just didn't stuff it well enough, but I don't feel like I have a whole lot of space for my eyes and nose, so it'll still be cute. And it seems proportional to the body, so maybe it's just a little bit smaller. All right, so I've got the eyes done. The very last thing to do is just the nose. The nose, again, it's something that you can make it however you like. I usually will just do this little V-stitch. You can fill in the V-stitch if you want, or you can leave it just like this. You can leave it open. You could also just go across like 2 or 3 stitches and make a straight line nose. So there's a lot of options. It's whatever your preference is. For mine, I'm going to see how I like a V-stitch. So just like with the eyes, I'm going to enter from the bottom of the head and I'm going to push up through a stitch. And then I need this to move over a little bit. If it's not centered, then you can move it around. All right, that's a little better. Then I'm going to go down like 1 or 2 rows to make the bottom of that V, and then pull up, and then you'll go back into that spot. If you want, you can go over it twice. On this nose, I went twice just to make it a little bit thicker, but you don't have to do that if you like how it looks. So you'll go back into the bottom of that V and then push out to where you started from. And then just like with the eyes, you can kind of play around and make sure that you like it. This is where if you wanted to fill in the nose, then you would push through the bottom of the V and just go up and down across the top of the nose to fill it all in. Go across like those 2 or 3 stitches and then keep going into the same center point at the bottom. But I'm just going to leave mine as a V. So then you can tie off those ends. And then pull those back into the head. Kind of hide those ends, and the plush yarn is really kind of fluffy, so you might have to get some fluff off your bunny when you're finished. All right, and then that is it for your bitty bunny. So I hope that you enjoyed this project. Here again for size reference, this is a plush bunny made in Baby Bear, and this is a cotton bunny made in I Love This Cotton. So this one has a rattle, this one does not. In the pattern, I do include some extra instructions on how to add a teething rattle if you wanted to, or for my daughter, she was really obsessed with her binky, so I added a chain and made it a binky buddy, kind of like those wubba nubs. So I have some instructions on how to do that in the PDF. So if you're interested in those, then you can check it out. But otherwise, I hope you like this video. If you do, please leave me a comment, let me know, or share. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Video is not something that I do very often. I have 4 kids, so it's a little bit tricky sometimes. But if you guys like them, then I'm happy to try and do them when I can. So let me know what you think, and I hope you have had fun doing this project. Thanks so much.